Morning, Bruce. Saraswati?
Should we start? No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just a second. Saraswati?
Okay, I'll just come back.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, வந்த பிறகு ஆரம்பிச்சு.
Okay, sir. Sir, shall I start?
Yeah, sure.
Saraswati, start.
Okay, sir. Good morning and a very warm welcome to AICT and ISTE sponsored Induction Refresher Program on Physiological Control and Internet of Medical Things 2021. Organized by Department of Electronic and Instrumentation Engineering, Puducherry Technological University. I cordially welcome you all to the Day 3, Session 1 on Construction of Digital Twins. Before we begin, it's my privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. T.V. Prabhakar, Principal Research Scientist, Department of Electronic System Engineering, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Dr. T.V. Prabhakar works in the area of network embedded system where he focused on hardware system design, microenergy harvesting systems, and power management algorithms. His lead the effort in Zero Energy Networks Laboratory at DESC, IASC, where his students and project staffs work on building embedded electronic systems for application areas such as aeroplane cabin, healthcare, smart homes, and other IoT applications as indoor positioning systems. Significant work in embedded space is at the MAC layer, layer 3, and other protocols. His laboratory has implemented, published, subscribes, and REST architectures based protocols and adapted embedded IPv6 flavors such as 6LoWPAN. The laboratory also works on IoT data management frameworks. Another focus area of his lab is related to RFID based localization and building RF energy harvesting platforms. An algorithm is being developed that can currently localize RFID tags to less than 2 feet. The laboratory has produced 3 energy harvesting silicon solutions to harvest RF power in the ultra low power levels. His current research interests are in energy harvesting, IoT security, heterogeneous networks for IoT, IoT MAC, and tactile internet applications with a goal to build low latency and reliable applications for remote maintenance and surgery. Several new and upcoming technologies such as outdoor 5G and indoor 802.11ay would be integrated to achieve the sub 1 millisecond round trip times for applications. His laboratory has published over 55 papers in IEEE and ACM conference. The laboratory has received several Best Paper awards and showcased few prototypes to the Prime Minister in the Startup India event organized by the Government of India in Jan 2016. His area of expertise are networked embedded system, which includes hardware system design, microenergy harvesting, system power management algorithms. Also, his expertise are IoT security, heterogeneous network for IoTs, and tactile internet applications. To be inspired is great, but to be an inspiration is honor. Now, I would like to invite Dr. T.V. Prabhakar to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saraswati, and thank you all for inviting me. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many of you are medical doctors here in this group? There are 28, I suppose. Are there any medical doctors?
We have Dr. Shaktivel is there.
Are you from? Do you have MBBS degrees or you have only PhD degrees?
MBBS. They have MBBS, sir.
So there are PhDs. I mean, there are MBBS doctors in this group.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, they're all MBBS, qualified doctors.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to be part of the group of doctors who are keen to learn on technology. So there are no engineers in this group.
Of course, we have engineers also, sir.
So there are MBBS doctors as well as engineers, both.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, then let me begin with, because this is Internet of Medical Things, let me begin with some examples that we have been working on in trying to understand how to use, build different things in the medical domain. So I'm sure the doctors understand this extremely well. So let me begin by sharing my screen. Okay, so I'll share my entire screen.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Can you see my whiteboard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, so this is for the doctors. So let me begin by telling you what we have been doing in the lab and what kind of expertise we can sort of make available for doctors who are interested in using a lot of technology. This is a pulse sensor. Okay, it measures the human pulse, and you are interested in measuring this without contact of the human being. Okay, so we have a light-based sensor. We have a light-based sensor, and it can count the number of pulses and convey this information to the doctor. The way we do it is we use a energy harvesting module, which has the ability to power this sensor. This is the one that actually measures the pulse. Pulse measurement is done here, and we power this device with this energy harvesting system. Now, this energy harvesting system, the way it powers is, think about it like two coils. Okay, one coil like this and the other coil like this. Now, this coil is part of this energy harvesting system, and this coil is actually the mobile phone. Okay, this is the mobile phone. So if you bring this mobile phone close to this energy harvesting circuit, energy from the mobile phone gets pumped into this energy harvesting circuit module, and then that energy harvesting module can power this pulse sensor. Now, the opposite is also true. Once the pulse is measured, either you can give it back to this energy harvesting module so that the data can go back in this direction, or it's also possible that just 1 minute. Let me take this phone call. I'll just be back in a second. Hello? I'm in a class. I'll call you after 11. Okay, so so far so good. Either you can take the data back either on this route, or you can get the sensor to directly communicate back to the phone over a Bluetooth link. Okay, either you can do this or you can do it either both ways. So the advantage is, if a patient is to be measured for pulse, okay, and you put a device on the finger, okay, or you can put it on the ear. You can put it either on the ear or in the finger, and then you don't need to put any battery on this. No battery. Okay, so it can live as much as it wants, and it's also not measuring. The measurement happens only when the attendant comes with a phone and puts the phone very close to the device here. Moment it comes, the measurement is coming directly on the mobile phone of the attendant, or the first caregiver, or whoever that person, or even the doctor. So this way you are not in contact, non-contact. Okay, and you can measure the pulse of the human, and you can record it right away on the phone. So once it comes on the phone, to update the database records of the hospital is easy, isn't it? Hospital records system becomes easy because from the mobile phone you can communicate directly to the hospital records. So the whole thing is, there are two innovations in this. One is the device applied to human has no battery. Okay, and two, the system is non-invasive. Okay, which essentially means that you can be COVID. This one, what shall I say, is COVID and what do you call that? COVID appropriate behavior can be maintained. Okay, so these two critical things it is trying to meet. So we have been doing work of this nature, and this particular project which I mentioned to you is actually working quite well, and measures the pulse quite reliably. Any questions till now? Any questions, folks? Any questions?
No process.
Okay. Am I clear about my statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is number one. And second thing that we have been doing is we have been working remotely. We have been trying very hard to work on remote surgery. Okay. Here the problem is the doctor is somewhere, and the hospital has a patient lying here, and you need to do a surgery. And the surgery typically is carried out. I'll explain this particular concept, which I'm sure several of you know, doctors of you know, but that is the idea here. I'm sure you know that minimally invasive surgery or robotic surgery uses the laparoscopic methods, right? Laparoscopic, right? Yes, doctors, you know about it, no? Robotic surgery, laparoscopic methods use a lot of robotic technology, isn't it, doctors? Anyone who can give me an example? Are you following me, folks?
They have kept it in the chat box, sir.
Oh, they have kept it in the chat box.
Okay. R. Chandra Kumar has given eye surgery.
Eye surgery, correct. Eye surgery, that is right. Eye surgery, correct. Eye surgery is one of them. What about general surgery? That is also being done, right? Who's the doctor who mentioned about eye surgery? Which doctor? Who was that? Chandra Kumar. What was his name?
R. Chandra Kumar, yes.
R. Chandra Kumar. See, Chandra Kumar, Dr. Chandra Kumar, have you heard of Da Vinci system? Da Vinci.
No, sir. No, not heard, actually.
Not heard. Okay. See, now, you know Manipal Hospital, no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Manipal Hospital in Bangalore and other big hospitals today have acquired this Da Vinci system. You can check out what this actually means. The idea is very simple, Chandra Kumar. If there is a patient and the patient you want to perform laparoscopic method, you know, right?
Yes, we know, sir.
You are aware. Huh? There are multiple laparoscopic instruments that you may want to use for your surgery applications. Now, so there'll be multiple robotic arms. Okay, there'll be different robotic arms containing these robotic instruments, these tools, these laparoscopic tools to which they are attached. Now, this complete robotic system over a wired network, over a wired system, the doctor is sitting in front of a surgeon console. I'll show you an example. Just give me 1 second and I will share that picture with you. I didn't know that you were all medical doctors. Okay, so that helps actually. Okay, now I'll extend it. I'll share the screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Huh? Can you see my
Yes,
screen?
yes, sir.
Can you
Yes.
see this? Can you
Yes.
see this?
Yes, sir, we are able to see.
What do you read there?
Da Vinci surgical system.
Correct. So this is a very important tool which has come to several hospitals like Manipal and others. Manipal Hospital, and I think so many other hospitals also are acquiring it. There are three parts. There is a surgeon console, there is a patient cart, and then there is a vision cart. Three modules are there. The surgeon control system is where your surgeon sits during the procedure, has a crystal clear 3D view, high definition view, 3D high definition view of your anatomy. Okay, he is cutting and controls the instruments. All instruments are controlled through this surgeon console. The tiny instruments are wristed and move like a human hand, but with a far greater range of motion. Okay, that is the key thing. All these instruments, these tools which are used, tiny instruments. Now, patient care is the next module. Okay, patient care is the next module. What it does is it is positioned near the patient. You can see there are a lot of attendants. These are all attendants, and this is the system which has a lot of instruments. You can see the instruments are going here. Correct? Can you see them? Can you see the instruments?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Where
sir.
the instruments are used during the operation, move in real time in response to your surgeon's hand and movements at the console. Now, where is this person and where is this patient care? If you ask this question, this is less than 10 feet distance. He's sitting outside the OT. This is outside OT. This is the OT. OT, you know, right? OT.
Yes, sir.
OT is operation theater. So this is operation theater. This man is just outside the operation theater. Or he may be inside the OT, but other end of the OT. That is also possible. And what he is doing is something interesting, along with the people who are also watching. The surgeon is operating it. He's moving the system using his hands. The robotic systems are performing the operation. And then there is a visualization here. You see the screen here, big screen here. You see?
Yes.
Okay. So the screen is where you see everything. Now, in our research in the lab, because this is the Internet of medical things that you are talking about, what we are trying to say is, right now the Da Vinci system is connected between these 2 points in less than one end of the room to the other end of the room. What if the surgeon is 100 kilometers away or 200 kilometers away, or is on the other side of the country, north, south, say 2000 kilometers, something like that. Okay, so surgery is happening in Bangalore. The surgeon himself is in Delhi. Possible? Yes, possible or not? Folks?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to use the internet. We are trying to use the internet and provide very good reliability. And we are trying to use the internet for its carrying what is known as the tactile traffic. In tactile traffic, what actually happens is the surgeon is getting a feedback about how he is operating using tactile sensors. And these are all IoT sensors. So essentially, we are trying to perform a robotic and Da Vinci based surgery, but not on a wired network, but over the internet. And using the internet to provide you the required reliability and using the internet to carry the required tactile traffic. Now, what is important about tactile traffic is the round trip time. The round trip time from the time the surgeon performs an operation to the time the surgeon gets a feedback of that operation should be less than or equal to about 1 millisecond. That means 500 milliseconds in one direction and 500 milliseconds in the other direction. This is what it should happen. This is hard, right? So it's getting 500 milliseconds in either direction. Actually, sometimes it also defies physics laws because there is a finite propagation delay which the data will take. Therefore, you will have to compromise a little bit on the time. That 1 millisecond round trip may not be something that will work. Maybe 2 milliseconds or 2.5 milliseconds might work, and that itself will be very interesting to solve. Okay, so such things are being attempted, and Internet of Medical Things will take care of doing such things in the coming future days. Has this been covered in your workshop till now?
Not yet, Professor.
So somebody is covering tactile?
No, Professor. Most of the sessions so far were based on physiological control related and signal processing related, basically.
Oh, I see. So internet surgery, nobody has talked about.
No, sir.
Okay. So what is going to come up is the tactile internet and tactile internet surgery. Using the internet for tactile, you are making the internet carry tactile traffic, and you are going to use the tactile internet for carrying out remote or robotic technology based surgeries. This is going to be the way things are going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So please do look up Da Vinci systems, do look up the ability to perform remote surgeries starting now, and Internet of Medical Things essentially takes care of all these aspects of remote surgery and so on. Okay, so that is the background I wanted to give you. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the digital twins part. Okay, shall I? Shall I move to the digital twins?
Yeah, Professor. If any participants having any queries, they can ask, sir.
Yes, they can ask right now. Straight away they can ask. Any questions?
Ranjit Kumar, sir, do you have anything? Okay. No, sir. We can move on.
But why people are not asking? I mean, I feel very sad that internet has...
No, sir.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. If you have any questions, you should ask. How will I know whether you are following or not? Sindhana Selvi, Doctor, Sumati, Rajan, Chandra Kumar, Ranjit Kumar. Please ask.
Sir, yeah, followed the concepts.
Followed, but no doubts, huh?
Sir, you said that it is being implemented in Manipal hospitals, but as you know, it takes a little longer time in our country. So, what are the prospects? So that is a generic query which came to my mind.
Okay, good question. See, I mentioned about Da Vinci system being implemented in Manipal and other hospitals, but I also mentioned something very important. In the Da Vinci system, the surgeon view, surgeon console, and the actual robotic surgery is through a wired system, does not use any internet. It is directly wired to the robotic platform. Surgeon is moving, these robotic systems are moving, surgery is happening, there's a visual console. This is part one of the problem. This is not what we want to do. what we want to do is, in this paradigm, what has happened is the doctor has to still come to the hospital to perform the surgery, isn't it? Yes,
Yes,
or no?
sir.
I
Yes,
don't
sir.
want the doctor to come to the hospital. Doctors are very scarce resources. Patient-doctor ratio is very poor in this country. If there is an expert who can perform a particular type of surgery, he should be accessible even to the poorest of the poor. Okay, and that is when inclusivity will come into picture. The one thing is that the surgeon cannot spend more time just traveling from one point to the other, whether it's within city or outside city or within two cities and so on. Therefore, you want the surgery to happen from wherever the surgeon is. Then you have to transform the internet to carry tactile traffic. And therefore, think about the surgeon console, which is 200 kilometers away. Think about the surgeon console, which is even 2000 kilometers away. And because that is now possible for the simple reason that the internet now gets tactile, has the capability to carry tactile traffic, and therefore becomes tactile internet. Okay. Now I will answer your question. When will it percolate? I am sure if technologies like tactile internet and all that come in, then the cost of such technologies also will fall rapidly. Therefore, you don't need to worry so much about the cost. After all, when people talk about life, right, people don't look at cost. You and I will never look at cost when it comes to best medical requirements, isn't it? It is
Yes, sir.
unfortunately the daily wage workers and the poor people who have a lot of problem on trying to pay their hospital bills because they are neither covered nor neither covered by LIC, I mean this ESI, or covered by the employer for any medical schemes. So that's a problem. So Da Vinci will definitely invade, and minimally invasive surgeries will become more and more the order of the day. Okay? So that will happen ultimately.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a query.
Yeah,
So tactile is basically the touch-based thing.
correct. Hmm.
How this tactile internet works? It's like a touch screen kind of environment.
So tactile internet means the internet has the capability, is equipped to carry touch-based traffic.
Okay.
That is the idea. It has the capability, the quality of service required to carry touch-based traffic. Now, touch-based traffic means what? It could be vibrational, right?
Okay.
It could be vibration data. It could also be, which is called, there are two types of feedback. One is called the kinesthetic feedback.
Yes, sir.
Kinesthetic feedback or kinematic feedback. Both are possible. Or vibrational feedback. Sometimes they say vibrational feedback and kinesthetic feedback.
Okay.
The internet should be able to carry this kinesthetic feedback and the vibrational feedback by offering a certain quality of service. If the internet can do it, then it is called the tactile internet.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So the theme of your workshop is on Internet of Medical Things, and indeed it's a wonderful topic. And a lot of innovations are happening in the medical world,
Right.
particularly applying of the internet to the medical world.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, shall we move on?
Yes, Professor. If others don't have any queries, we can move on, sir. Yes, sir.
You can ask. If there are queries, you can ask. I mean, I'll be happy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whatever little that is being discussed, we
Yes.
should discuss this in great detail. Arvind Ganesh, any questions? Ranjit Kumar? Ranjit Kumar? Ambulingam?
Unblickum is the one you asked now, I think. Sir.
Oh, I see. Okay. What about Rajan? Okay. I think unless you people start interacting,
Yes, sir.
There is no use. Okay, my one-way traffic will not take us very far. Okay, never mind. Let's move on now. Okay, for the moment.
Yes.
Okay, let me share back. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Not it, sir.
Yes, no, yes. Sir.
Can you see it now? Digital twin screen?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Okay, just a minute.
Shall I move on?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes.
So digital twin, even for the medical people, it's a very intriguing thing. What do you see on the left side here? Just tell me what you see.
Car, sir.
You see a car here,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
What do you see next to it?
This is
It's a
image
virtual
of
copy.
the-
Virtual copy, sir. Virtual copy.
Virtual copy. But is it moving along with the car?
Yes, sir. It seems so.
That is important. That means there is real timeness, isn't it? There
Yes,
is
sir.
real timeness.
Yes, sir.
This is picture one. Look at this. What is this?
Airplane.
Turbine.
Aeroplane. Aeroplane engine. Jet engine, right? See, you split it into two parts. Which is the real part?
Left side is real part.
Left side. Okay. What is the right side?
Which
It is
way?
virtual or
Digital copy.
yes.
When this is rotating, this also will rotate. So same thing, real timeness. Look at this. Human and human copy. When human turns the head, this also turns the head. When this human has an emotion, this human also will have a certain emotion. And everything is done in real time. What is this you see here? Right top.
Ship.
Ship.
Okay. Small ship. And you see here a shadow of that? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it is a digital copy of the ship. What is this?
Yes, petroleum industries, the oil.
Yeah. Oil rig. Deep
Yes.
sea oil rig.
Yes.
And its copy. This you know, aeroplane and its copy. If this is flying at a certain speed, this also will fly at a certain speed. Here there is an interesting example. So all of them will point to real timeness.
Yes.
Supposing from the opposite direction, one big bird comes and hits this. Big bird. Okay? Big bird hits this engine. What will happen to this plane?
Crashes.
Huh?
It will crash, sir.
It will crash because the engine will get damaged and it may end up in a dangerous situation. If there are 200 passengers, there is a risk that all 200 might die, correct?
Yes, sir.
When this bird hit this, what will happen to this copy?
The impact is sensed, probably.
Huh?
Impact could be sensed.
Impact is sensed, correct. But what will happen to this copy? Will it also crash?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah, so that is the thing. What will you study in this?
Resilience.
Huh?
Resilience of the twin.
Correct, exactly. See, this plane crashed, right? Or got into danger. This plane, the real system got into danger because the material used for the fabrication of the plane The strength of the material was not all that good. There was no resilience to the airplane. But if you want to replace this airplane body with a new material, you must understand the resilience of the airplane to such impacts. That you can study on a digital copy. Understand now? You can play with the digital copy once you have mimicked the original. After that, you don't need the original anymore. You can simulate, emulate several conditions of the real system. Followed?
Yes.
That is the important point about a twin. A twin is a digital copy of an original system which has not only the capability of updating itself in real time, but also has the capability to perform what is known as a what if analysis. Can it do a what if? Can it do
Yes,
a
sir.
what if? Yeah, it can do a what if in a very effective manner. So that is a big advantage for building a digital twin. Okay, you can say, what if a bird hit this? What will happen? You will study its performance. If you find that if it hits, the bird hits this plane falls down, that means there is some problem with the construction of the physical system. So you modify the physical system and then again check back on the digital copy. How good the digital copy reports will largely depend on how you make the twin, and then you study the twin so that you can replace the original or you can modify the original in a suitable manner. And that's essentially a twin. Any questions? No questions. Okay, so let's move on. One of the reasons why you want to construct a twin is because you want to do condition monitoring. Same example I gave you about that bird hit. Very similar example. This is time along the x-axis. Along the y-axis is the machine condition. Okay. Think about this machine, which is very similar to the aircraft engine. It begins to deteriorate, but you prefer to ignore it. You ignore it till the noise falls to a level. Noise increases to a level such that machine condition does not affect the production. Supposing you are producing 100% of the components throughout till here, but here it reduced to 85%. That is a time when you put a threshold and say, I need to wake up, because the system is deteriorating more than 15%. It has deteriorated. You can live with conditions that begin to deteriorate. You can live with vibrations. You can live with noise and so on. But you cannot live with production going down below 85%. That's the time when you have to go back and check your ball bearings and check your bearings, solenoid valves, actuators and others, whether they are working well, whether there is any problem with the system that you are building. So all of that comes under condition monitoring. You can see that this is the threshold at which the machine starts to deteriorate, and then you have to disable the system because it is going to adversely impact the production capability. So you have to quickly replace the digital system with another digital system so that the system continues to function under optimal load at all times. And that is this point. Okay. After this, there is significant loss, and then you take care. So if someone asks you what is the advantage of a digital twin, you can say a digital twin is an exact digital copy which follows the physical system in real time and has all the capabilities of a real time of a physical system, but in its digital copy, and that is used for the digital copy can be used for the purposes of building condition monitoring in electronic equipment, in different types of equipment, need not be electronic, any type of equipment. If you are interested in condition monitoring of the equipment, then that is possible because you have developed a good close model, approximate model of the real system using principles of digital twins construction. That's the idea. Now, many people have defined this term in many different ways. Somebody said it's a live or a living model that drives the business outcome. Then another definition is it's a virtual representation of an IoT device. Another person said analytics is the key in a digital twin. Dynamic model which shifts continuously with age and time. Nice definition. The twin captures the context. Pump for water applications. What this simply means is the covariates are important. The covariates here are important. If you take a pump and that pump does not work beyond 50 degrees, means you have to keep it cool all the time. And the way to cool it all the time is put it under water, right? Or use it for water applications. So water pumps, they keep cooling because the water is keeping the pump very cool. But what if that pump is not meant for water applications? It's meant for non-water applications. Then the temperature will go up. If it goes up, then this pump may not give you the required performance. Therefore, you have to keep monitoring the condition of the pump. And therefore, you must capture the context under which the pump is applied. The same pump under water works very well, but the same pump in air, under air conditions, does badly. That means it's not tuned for application areas for non-watery conditions. So capturing the context for a twin is a very important requirement. And that brings in the covariates as well. Pump works very well as long as the water is below 20 degrees, they say. The pump works very well when the water is between 18 and 22. But at 25, the pump does not give you good performance because the temperature has risen. And therefore, studying the covariate along with the efficiency of the pump is a very important requirement. Dynamic calibration, which affects the design and build, is an important requirement, and that is stated as a definition. You don't need to talk about process twins for only humans or aeroplanes or, for that matter, oil rigs and so on. You can have a twin for a human. You can have a twin for a process. You can have a twin for the device. And the way you construct a digital twin, which is the focus of today's talk, is about looking up several nice, interesting open source tools. Okay, open source tools. And I'll show you one by one. Okay. And before we move on, there are other definitions as well. You update the representation of a real asset in operation. And your asset could be a valve, or it could be a pump, or a pump subsystem, pump system, or even a pump subsystem. Okay, so you can go to any granularity when you talk about digital twins. Now, whenever we talk about digital twins, two things should come to your mind. Don't forget this. One is called physics-based model. That means you're modeling the mechanical and hydraulic parts. And I mentioned to you about the what-if conditions. The other is called the data-driven model. There is no physics here. It is just predicting the RUL, remaining useful life of the system. Predictive maintenance is an example, which is actually telling you how many more weeks, or how many more days, or how many more hours before which a failure can occur, and therefore it is time for replacement. Okay, all that comes under the data-driven models. The data-driven model, essentially, people talk about similarity models, survival model, degradation models, and so on. Okay, all kinds of models are available. They all predict the transition from healthy state to the failure states, all of them actually. And MATLAB has a very good discussion on this. So look up MATLAB. Okay. And this is where I got the picture from, which is essentially copied from MATLAB. Your system data, the way you use the data can lead you to three important verticals. One is run to failure history, one is to known failure threshold, and the other one is the survival models. Lifetime data with or without covariates. Pump is underwater or is it under normal air condition? What is the temperature range? What is the pressure? What is the humidity? And so on and so forth. All of that essentially lead you to survival models. The one in the middle is called the known failure threshold. You know that your system will not perform optimally after 100 cycles. Therefore, known failure threshold and setting the limit is an interesting thing to do in the known failure threshold. Run to failure history is interesting because this is talking about another interesting way of looking at digital twins with data driven, where similar valves are applied or similar equipment are applied. They are called similarity models. So you can approach it from similarity models. You can approach the data-driven model from known threshold, the failure threshold, in which case you would have performed static investigations and you have come to a point where this particular device cannot work more than 500 cycles. Okay. Now you can plug in this 500 cycles into the similarity models which are created. That is a good thing in the case of known failure threshold systems. Now, lifetime data with or without covariates, you must know the context under which systems are running. So you can also use that part for modeling data-driven model systems. So these are important definitions. Okay. Before we move on, what I'll do, I'll play a video. Okay. Shall I?
Okay, Ji. Okay, Professor.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me play it and then let us see if we understand this. Is the video playing?
It's playing, sir.
Yes, sir. No sound, no audio.
Video is playing, sir. Yeah.
Don't worry about sound. Just keep watching. Okay. What did you see? Now we'll take some questions. What did you see?
Sir,
So temperature control.
sir, I think data is being.
Huh? What did you see?
So it's just a control system where data is collected, data acquisition. Like
Okay.
data.
Okay. See,
In real time, sir.
okay. So I'll tell you what exactly we are doing. And this will be the key to our understanding. This is the twin. This is the twin I want to create. This is the twin I want to create. Okay, let me go back. This is the twin I want to create. But you see this as a physical system, isn't it? You see it physically, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So what you see are two fans on top. These are two Peltier coolers. Inside is a heater, which is a Peltier junction heater. So there's a heater and there's a cooler also. Both of them are there inside. I want to create an exact digital copy of this chamber. That is my idea. Here, what you see, this is a Raspberry Pi, this is a PLC system. This is trying to maintain the temperature inside this chamber. It could be PID, it could be PI, it could be just D, it could be just P, it could be on-off control, it can be anything. Don't worry about that. So the temperature is what I want to maintain inside this chamber, and I want to have a digital copy of it. That is the objective. This is the GUI, what you see on the right side. Okay, you have a set temperature. If the temperature goes low, you have to heat it. If the temperature goes high, you have to cool it, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So when temperature goes low, you have to heat it with a heater. And where is that heater? I'll show you inside. You observe carefully. Thermoelectric cooler on. This is all the program code that we wrote. You leave all that. Huh? I'll show you the inside. Yeah. Now you see inside?
Yes, sir.
You see it inside or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what you see inside is a fan. And on below the fan is the Peltier cooler. There's a heat sink. And below that heat sink is the Peltier chip. This fellow is heating this chamber. This chamber's temperature you want to maintain fixed. Okay? That is your idea. That is what you want to twin. Now what happens? When it heats, the air inside the chamber heats, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So how do you remove the heat? How do you remove the heat from the chamber?
By using some fan. we can
Fan.
put-
That is this fan. You see the fan now?
Okay.
That fan is removing the heat. But if you remove the heat too much, it will cool down, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
If you cool down, what you should do? You should switch on the heater again. Okay. And if you heat too much, if you don't remove the heat too much, the temperature will go up. So what you should switch on?
Fan.
Cooler.
Yes.
Cooler and associated fan, both you have to switch on.
Nice.
This is the heater. What you see here is the cooler. These two are coolers. Followed?
Yes, sir.
So one is heating, the other is cooling. Now, what all you can think of when you look at this picture, you have an aluminium plate. Did you see it? Did you see the aluminium plate? Did you see the aluminium plate?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
your notepad we are saying, sir.
Yeah, but on the physical system, you saw the aluminium plate or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, I think you people have not observed. I'll show you again.
Answer.
I'll show you again. Don't worry. We'll do it slowly.
Yes.
If you are not following, you should stop because here we are here to learn, no? Right? Okay, next picture. Next picture. Can you see the aluminium plate?
Yes, sir.
Yes, no.
Yes, sir.
Which is the aluminium plate? Where is it mounted?
At
The
the
top
bottom,
one.
sir.
Bottom, exactly. The bottom one is the aluminium plate. On top of the aluminium plate, what is mounted?
The cooler and fan.
Cooler is the other side. This is just the heater.
Heater.
I told you, heater is inside.
Heater. Yes,
So
sir.
this is the plate. Agreed? This is the fan.
Yes, sir.
Below the fan is the heat sink. Below the heat sink is the chip. Okay? Followed or no?
Yes, sir.
This is the plate. Touching this plate is the chip. Which chip is this? Peltier chip. On top of the chip is the heat sink. And on top of the heat sink is placed the, what is placed?
Fan.
Fan, correct. When you supply power to the chip, it heats this plate. And then this heat has to be maintained. So you don't want to heat it too much. When the heat increases, you switch off the heat, right? You want to switch off the chip. And you have to keep the temperature inside constant. So you have to put one temperature sensor also. And you see here, there is a temperature sensor. Can you see this? Can you see this? I'm circling. The top cover has a small PCB. Can you see this? Folks, if you don't talk, I'm going to stop the class.
Yes, sir. It was visible.
I'm going to stop the class. You should say yes or no, right? You're not even getting involved in the class. What is this? So can you see this chip?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the temperature sensor. This is measuring the temperature of this cabin. And this is the top aluminum plate. This is the bottom aluminum plate. Okay. If you close this box, you will see the coolers, right? They are mounted outside. So now, so this is the inside view. This is inside, right? Inside. Now let's draw the outside. How does the outside look? Outside will have two chips. What are these two chips? What are these two chips?
One is heating, another one is cooling.
No. Only one heater is inside.
Coolers.
Only
Coolers.
there are two.
Coolers.
Chips. Peltier
Then
chips.
coolers.
Peltier cooler chips. Now this Peltier cooler is in contact with the aluminum plate. So this is the aluminum plate. Okay. And on top of the Peltier chip, there is a heat sink. And on top of the heat sink, there is a, what is there?
Fans.
Fan. You should say that. What is wrong? I don't understand. You're seeing it, isn't it? Okay, this is top. And what is this called? Cooler system.
Coolers.
What is this? This is
Heating
the
system. Heating system.
heater subsystem.
Yes. Okay. Clear?
Clear or
Yes, sir.
not clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let me play it again. So you see now actually you don't need audio. You can understand everything all by yourself. So we'll do one thing. I will go back and I will start all over. Can one of you give me the story? Start. One of you tell the story. Go ahead. Please
Here we
start.
Here we have the twin of the actual system.
Yeah.
So when the heater is getting on, so
Yeah.
it has a PLC server with data logging.
Right.
So the web page is act as a digital twin with the user interface.
Yes.
So
In
when
this, in this picture, the thermoelectric heater is on.
Yes,
The
sir.
thermoelectric cooler is off, right?
Cooler is on, sir.
Cooler is on and
Heat-
heater is off. Okay. It's collecting data from the physical system and displaying it on this GUI.
Yes, sir.
What is the desired temperature
24 degrees centigrade.
and what has been currently set to? What is it currently at? 24.
24.
It has met the required temperature.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Continue.
continuously data logging is happening.
Yeah, go ahead.
This outer thing, you have the two coolers with the Peltier chips on the aluminum plate. Here we have the Raspberry Pi board, which is actually collecting the data with the PLC
Correct.
interface to the PC.
Correct.
So on the inner of this, okay, there's a Raspberry Pi with PLC hardware. There's an aluminum plate with the Peltier chips with the actual coolers, Peltier coolers. Inside you have the another aluminum plate. You have the actual thing mounted. Your heat sink, the chip with that heat sink. It is mounted on the top. You have this aluminum plate. It is having the sensor, temperature sensor. It will be collecting the actual data.
Correct. This sensor is actually little bit peculiar. I'll tell you what it actually is. The sensor is actually a 4x4 array. Each one will have its own beam width. So it is measuring some degree. Theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 and theta 4. Okay. If you do theta 1, add up theta 2, theta 3, all four of them, you will get the full coverage of what? Full coverage of the chamber.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Something like a Wheatstone bridge. We used to.
No, that's Wheatstone bridge is a circuit. Here we are not talking about Wheatstone bridge. We are talking about why is this gone small?
Array of sensors, sir.
Array of sensors, exactly. Just wait, I'll go back to let me create a new one. This is like a 4x4 array. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Full coverage. Full coverage of what? What value?
Temperature.
Exactly. So that's the idea. Okay. Okay. Continue now.
Yes, sir.
So our goal is to twin this system, isn't it? You want
Yes,
to
sir.
twin this system. I will now go through the slides. You understood this well?
Yes, sir.
You understood or no?
Yes, sir.
Very well, you have understood.
Perfect, sir.
Very good. Now you are prepared. Now, if you are mentally prepared, then I can actually show you the slides. So let me go through the actual slides. Okay, let me share it again. Krishnamurthy, you have any question? Krishnamurthy?
Sir, it is understandable, sir. I'm
Yeah,
following.
but Krishnamurthy has raised his hand.
So no, sir, no questions, sir.
No questions. Huh? Okay. My bad luck. If you had asked, I would have been happy. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Which is the first slide you see?
Construction of digital
Framework.
Correct. Okay. So now you know all these parts. Can one of you tell all the parts that are written here?
temperature sensor,
Correct.
thermal sensor,
Right.
hot site setup,
Right.
reference material,
Right.
cold site setup.
Okay. So this is to construct a digital twin framework using free and open source software programs. How do you construct this? If you are engineering college teachers, professors, or MBBS doctors, you're all the time thinking of how to get a digital copy of a human, how to get a digital copy of an equipment, and so on. So we did this exercise in the lab, and what we ended up was this particular project, which I showed you just now. The experimental setup comprises of a physical model, which you know very well. The simulation model also is something that I'll show you now. And then there is an automation framework. We used several open source tools, OpenPLC, Eclipse Ditto, FreeCAD, SimFlow, OpenForm, ParaView, UiPath Studio, and so on and so forth. So several open source programs were used. This is our physical model. We have an analog temperature sensor. We have Peltier chips. We have heat sink. We have a fan, thermal sensor. There's a reference object, and then there are aluminum plates. The physical system setup is on the right side. We have the OpenPLC, the cold subsystem, the hot subsystem, the Modbus over TCP/IP running between the OpenPLC system, running also on the Raspberry Pi, and Modbus TCP/IP running between the Raspberry Pi and the OpenPLC system. And several interesting pieces of software include OpenPLC, Eclipse Ditto, which is an open source cloud platform used for web application as a reference for remote monitoring and remote controlling of the physical chamber, and all of that. Okay. Now, here is the physical model. How do you construct it from physics? The physical model, after you build it, you have to divide it into hot subsystem and cold subsystem. When is hot on and when is hot off? So if you see extreme left side, the subsystem operation, you have hot subsystem off, cold subsystem on. Then you have another subsystem which is hot subsystem on and cold subsystem off. Obviously, you want to do a hot subsystem on if the temperature is less than the desired, isn't it? That's why you have the less sign there. T infinity is less than desired, you have to do hot subsystem on and cold subsystem off. And similarly, it is just the opposite, where T infinity is greater than the desired, you have to keep the hot subsystem off. Temperature has gone beyond the hot subsystem, and therefore you have to off the subsystem and switch on the cold subsystem. So essentially these two loops have to be executed continuously. Now ambient temperature is the T infinity. Measure current ambient temperature, which is T infinity. Okay. So you keep doing this essentially. We have added a small offset, and that is mostly to maintain a threshold with respect to the desired temperature. So don't worry so much about why did I add minus 0.2 and all that. It's just a small offset that we added. How do you create the simulation model now? Now this is very simple because you people, I made you understand it very well. Now you see, there is a chip, correct? There is a chip, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Chip is connected to the sink base, and on top is the heat sink. You have the fins of the heat sink. Then you have the fan. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
This is a very critical slide. If you have understood this, you actually know how to create physics models of twins. Right side, what you see is the geometry, is the digital copy using the geometry tools like FreeCAD and so on. And left side top picture you see is the actual understanding of the phenomena. You have conduction, you have convection as well. When it goes to the ambient, it becomes T infinity air ambient. See the arrow in what direction it is going. Okay, so it's just passing through, it's heating, the chip is being heated, touches the sink base, and that becomes a conduction because it's in close contact with the heat sink. That is also conduction. Fins, of course, are all aluminum fins. They are also in conduction. But fan is not in contact with the fins. So it has to be a convection. And then you are removing the heat in this way. So what you need are some basic equations. You need the specific heat expression. You need to apply Fourier's law. And you need to apply the issue related to fin equations, right? If you know the fin equation, if you know specific heat is what? Specific heat is the amount of energy required to heat 1 gram of material by 1 degree Celsius, isn't it? Yes, folks?
Yes, sir.
So if you know that, then you know Fourier's law and you know the fin equation. It's quite easy for you to formulate and make a model of the system that you have actually built. And then you can do a CFD simulation. That is, you can use OpenFOAM and so on and do a CFD simulation. Following it up, you can do a ParaView to view the results. And I'll show you all of that. So you can automate this whole process of keeping the chamber at a fixed temperature by taking the user input. You create the geometry using FreeCAD, create a mesh, put a solver, create the turbulence modeling, thermophysical properties, boundary conditions, and then you get the simulation output. All of this can be nicely put up into an automation framework, and we use the robotic process automation for doing that. This is the math model. What you have on the left side is a hot subsystem. You have the T sink, which is the difference of sink minus the chip, right? Divided by e power a1 times T plus T chip. Similarly, T ambient is from T sink minus T ambient divided by e power A4 times T. Okay. Your problem is how do you get A1 and this A4? You can see now A1 is like this and A4 is like this. If you are to get A4, you need to compute A2 and A3. A2 can be computed with the Finn equation. This is the Finn equation. A3 is also part of the Finn equation. If you know A3 and A4, which are part of the Finn equation, which is A2 and A3, you can get to A4. You plug A4 here and you plug A1 here, you get the hot subsystem. Similarly, you have to get A5 and A6 for the cold subsystem, which is given by this methodology. And then you will arrive at cold and hot equations. 4 equations will be there. 2 equations for hot subsystem and 2 equations for cold subsystem. From your sensor, you collect the data and you feed the temperature directly, whatever data you got, and then you can quickly compute. Okay, you have to get all of this data before you compute T sink and T infinity. Okay, you have to compute. You need the data which is coming from sensors to do that. Overall subsystem you can do, and then you can start the what if testing. I mentioned to you about what if. Physical system you cannot try anything, but the digital copy you can try. Now this is what you got here. I mentioned to you that we put a thermal sensor inside. On the x-axis is time, on the y-axis is the temperature. You see what actually happened was, if you take a chamber, you profile the chamber, you get 4 different temperatures, let's say, from the chamber, 4 different ways by which the temperature is varying inside the chamber. But your math equation, math model is saying it has to be much higher. This is the math model. It's saying there's a huge difference. Similarly, this is for the hot subsystem. If you look at the cold subsystem, again there is a difference. One good thing is there is symmetry. If there is a difference between the physical system and the math model, it is showing up in both directions. Why could this be? Why is there no proper match? Take at 400. If you take 400, the actual measurement is saying the temperature should be around 32.5, let's say. Whereas the physical math model is saying it should be 36. Isn't it? At least there is a 2.5 degree, 2.5 degrees difference between the two. Why do you think that problem is there?
So mathematical model is under ideal conditions.
Correct. You are absolutely correct. Actually, this difference is because of leakage. Yeah, math is not considering leakages, but the sensors are measuring a value which accounts for leakages. That is the problem. Okay. Now let's say you know that this is the leakage. But if you got a curve like this going up, then you know it is not leakage. It is leakage plus something else, isn't it? Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Kindly show me the first slide, mathematical slide, which you have showed on mathematical model for cold and hot system, subsystem.
Right here.
Yeah, just 1 second. Sir. Thank you, sir.
You want to ask me a question on this? You want to ask me a question on this, or you just want to see the slide?
Ma'am, just left the meeting, ma'am. Maybe some net issue with them, madam.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. She asked, actually, she left.
Okay, never mind. So this is the simulation model. So we did three things, right? We did the physical measurement, we did computational fluid dynamics model, and we also did the math model. We kept an object inside, and our interest is to understand how this object performs inside the chamber. And we were understanding the whole area there. And what we did was, in the simulation model, CFD and also steady state conjugate heat transfer solver of the physical system. Now here is a nice what if result. See, x-axis is time, y-axis is temperature. Here what is happening is, if you collect data at 100th second, you get a point like this. It says it is 36.5, let's say. At 200th second, if you get the data point, you know it is at 37.5. Now, regularly the slope you will know, from that you will know. You know, by the time it reaches 650 seconds, it will reach a point where the chamber will explode. And when do you know that? You know that right at the 200th second, because you know the gradient and you know where it is going to touch and how long it will take. So what is the savings you will know if you do a what if in terms of time? 400 seconds you will save, isn't it? 200, and this is 600, and let's say this point is 650. So you will get 450 seconds ahead. You will know what will happen to the chamber. You agree or no?
Yes, Professor.
So can you do maintenance of this chamber?
Yes, sir.
Can you cut off the temperature so that it will go down?
Definitely, sir.
That's what I did here. You see, I pushed it down. So the power of the digital twin is to let you do preventive maintenance, predicting things in advance, performing what if analysis, and so on and so forth. That is the whole idea behind creating exact digital copies of physical systems. That's all I have. Thank you very much. I am more than happy to take questions. I hope I have done it in time.
Perfect, sir. Perfectly in time, sir.
Okay.
I really enjoyed, actually.
Okay, very good. I'm also happy. You can ask me questions.
Sir,
Yeah.
thanks for the nice illustration, sir. Sir, actually, digital twin that has been talked about. Previously, also there were some simulations being done. Now we are talking of more flexible model. But does the digital model done continuously? Now, once you have done it, you have got an inference. Do we need to continue this process, or it is only done in whenever it is required?
No. You recall what I said? That car example, that human example. All
Yeah,
of
parameters keep changing. Yeah.
No, you have to do it in real time.
Okay, once we get a lot of inferences, is it necessary to continue this process?
Yeah. Otherwise, what is the use? Plane is flying at ground. It should get the environment related to ground. If the plane is flying at 10,000 feet, it should get information about the plane flying at the 10,000 feet. If it is flying at 40,000 feet, it should get that. So continuously data should be coming from the IoT sensors. Continuously you have to keep updating your twin model. Continuously.
So it's more flexible and robust than the earlier simulation traditional methodologies.
See, in simulation, earlier simulation methods, you are feeding synthetic data and you are generating some plots. Isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now you can't do that. You have to take live data and feed it to simulation models.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and your math model should be perfectly replicating the physical system. So you will do simulation model, you will do math model, and you will get data which are fed to both of them.
So even using artificial intelligence, etc., the mathematical model can be upgraded.
Artificial intelligence you can use instead of what I did in terms of simulation, no? You can put
Yes,
a
sir.
AI model and feed data to it. It can do all this what if analysis for you, the AI model.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can you just tell me about what is dynamic recalibration?
So what actually happens is you saw that I put a offset of 0.1 and 0.2 for the hot and cold subsystem.
Yes, sir.
Due to wear and tear of the parts, I may have to keep changing that offset value repeatedly.
Okay.
So that is dynamically I'm recalibrating.
Okay. Okay.
It should not be regarded as an anomaly.
Okay.
It should be regarded as a wear and tear component.
Okay. Okay. Sir. Please, others have any queries you can ask, sir.
Raghuram Mudumba. Why people don't talk? I don't understand. It's a very strange thing for me. We are. You can,
Sir, nothing from my side, sir. It was very new topics we could listen.
you say things slow. See, you just ask because this is the way we interact. Otherwise, see, in the COVID times, how will we learn?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bimal, Rajan, Sumati, Saraswati, so many of you are there. "62 of you are there.
Sir, may I ask something?
You can ask anything, Renu. Go ahead, ask.
Thank you. Professor Prabhakar, you mentioned somewhere that even these human simulation is possible or digital twin. So of course we are talking about your medical domain only. So could you cite some examples
Of human twinning, huh? Human twinning? We
Yes, sir.
lost Renu. Human twinning, you mean?
Yes, sir. Human twinning. So,
Yeah.
like how it is done for creating devices or for creating. I'm not sure like how it is done. Like
Yeah.
how
Good
is
point.
separate means which are the areas where this kind of intervention is required? Is it for some transplantation that is done, or is it done for making devices?
Yeah, very good point. See, actually, medical area is unexplored, but you are a doctor, right?
Sir, actually, I'm a lawyer. I
Yeah.
counsel to doctors.
Oh, very good. So we can go together on this. Let's understand a few things.
Sure.
You know, when we do EEG, you capture several waveforms, isn't it, of several frequencies.
Indeed.
So you have alpha waves, beta waves, and all that. Now, those are extremely low frequency signals, 8 hertz, 5 hertz, and so on. Extremely low, and also in terms of amplitude, very low grade signals. You know exactly which wave corresponds to what state of the brain. For example, sleep state is caused by a predominant type of a wave. Now, that has been understood well. Supposing you put a EEG sensor, in fact, not one but many, and you capture the EEG waveform of a human, you actually know what exactly is causing a certain anxiety or an anomaly in a human. By just studying these electrical signals, that part to some extent people have understood. So that's why they do a EEG. Similarly, there is enough knowledge about ECG. There is enough knowledge about other parameters which are being measured. So in a way, a poor man's twin is already out there, which we haven't formally, we haven't formally accepted that some level of low grade twinning of humans is already there. But what we miss is the problem, is here the gap has to be addressed. You don't wear a EEG throughout your life, right? You wear a EEG only to study something. If you have a problem, you go to a hospital and somebody apply a EEG and they try to understand a few things. Think of wearing a hoodie which you use in your winters, right? Moment you put on the hoodie, the EEG signal is captured, let us say. You don't even realize that you're putting a hoodie with EEG, but it continuously captures your brain signals. And you behave normal, natural, but data is being collected and being analyzed. For example, you had, let us say, an incident which you want to report to somebody. And when you report the incident, you say that, oh, I was not attentive at that time when this incident happened. And I had a problem. I could not understand why I was not attentive. When you say that, it's now easy for the doctor to go back exactly in timeline and say, look, this is what was happening to you at that instant. So analysis of the human brain and understanding the human system is happening already. But sensors are not put all through and through. You only put sensors when you have a problem. Unless, this is done on a continuous basis, like on machines, you can't really understand the human twin easily. However, what you said is very relevant. You create a twin of the human for a particular application. For example, a surgery. You want to perform a surgery, you may want to understand it better. How the tissue is developing. For example, if you have a knee problem and you want to see how bad your meniscus layer has developed or degraded, you may want to go inside and see that, because today MRI gives you that information. But you want to have a low cost continuously monitoring equivalent of an MRI, which tells you how good the cartilage, meniscus cartilage is developing. So you are in a way twinning the kneecap of a human. All this is happening already. Unfortunately, you're not doing continuous monitoring. You're only doing it for a purpose. So your observation is correct. You want to perform a surgery. Pre-surgery, you want to get some data for 3 days, 4 days. You put it and then understand the system, and then you perform the surgery. Post-surgery, you want to understand something. You put it and keep studying the performance of the human and get to it. So strictly speaking, twinning a human is sometimes maybe far-fetched and also sometimes desired also.
Sir, thank you. You addressed in different contexts, like by giving example. I was curious about that particular sentence because it would involve a lot of ethical dimensions. So that was my area of interest. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't steal data from people without signing up. You have to, it was really a problem. Non-invasive monitoring is not allowed till human allows. It violates privacy. So that's an issue.
Right.
So Dr. Kanakadurga has asked, please explain about power generation turbine example in the chat window actually.
Power generation turbine. Oh, see, thing is, if you are talking about water flow and water power generation, supposing you have information about how much water is being collected from different streams before your turbine can run full, then you already know what is the kind of power output you are likely to get. So it's about measuring, it's about, see, the whole world. If you want to create digital twins, you need to collect humongous amount of data, and that is the key. If you want to know about power generation, you must collect enough information about the water level, water flow, and where all the water is being tapped, so that it can flow into the turbine. Then you may want to understand how good the turbine is performing. So you want to do maintenance of the turbine itself, because that is the source of power. So all of that means, again, you should instrument the systems for not only maintenance, but also for the purpose of knowing how much power is likely to come in the next, let us say, 1 hour, in the next 5 hours, or next days, and so on. If you have information from the meteorological department, you exactly know how much amount of rain you will get tomorrow, day after, and from there you will know how much water will get collected, and from there you know how much power you will generate. So by putting a few weather sensors, you will actually know how much power you can generate. That is the power of IoT. Two disparate areas can be connected, and you will end up with getting accurate information about power generation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, sir. What I understood from this is this technology mainly helps us to maintain the operations and to increase the efficiency.
Exactly. These are all advantages of the twin.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question to that. How can we differ this digital twins with the modeling of systems, sir? Modeling of system by non-linear and linear modeling. How can we differ this digital twin concept with that linear and non-linear modeling, sir?
So somebody asked this question, and it's the same answer I gave. In the normal conventional modeling, what you normally do is you take data, feed it to a CFD system or a linear non-linear model, and you synthetically generate data and you simulate systems. Okay, and that is usually done offline.
Okay.
Because you want to understand material properties or you want to understand something. It is done in an offline manner. That's also done in medical areas, right? It's also done. But in the digital twin world, you're actually getting live data from the physical system. And that is what you're using for modeling and for simulation. That's the key difference.
Okay. So it can be related that they are saying that black box model like that we can relate to this, sir.
No, black box analysis of black box is offline, right?
Yes,
after the plane crashes, or supposing you want to understand what happened to the plane, you retrieve the black box and you open the black box and run the data through the black box. That is an offline model. That's not a black box. This is real time. You're actually gathering data.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
And you are refining the model.
Actually, we are getting the data. From that data, we are designing the functions or the transfer functions or the equations from the data.
Correct. The math model is continuously getting data from the physical system. The simulation model is getting data continuously from the physical system.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no questions, I will take leave of you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I will be in touch with again. Okay.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your.
Thank
Can
you.
I leave now?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dear participants, I recommend all to kindly fill the feedback form shared in the chat box. Once you're done, let's join the next session at 11:30 a.m. Thank you all.